The backdrop to the entertainment is the Bradán Fasa, the salmon of knowledge, and I don't know how much of it you can see down in the big bad world of Facebook Live, but the salmon is getting a good old roasting from the music tonight. He's getting a good going. I'd like to say hello just to a couple of people, Kevin Lynch and Tina Robinson, living down the road. They have an incredible business. They're great thrivers. They do natural oils and soaps, Armid, A-R-M-I-D they're called, and a big hello to them. Big hello to a guy that I sat in a desk in school with back in the day in primary school, Pan Neville down in Tipperary. And not to mention, of course, the people you can't see when I'm talking to you live here right now, and that's the guys that are behind the scenes. You know, usually you see in the movies it's kind of lights, camera, action, roll. Well, it takes a long time and a lot of hard work to get lights, camera, action, and roll. And it's Lou and Kevin Filming.com that is bringing this wonderful feast of music to you tonight. And of course, there's always, when it comes to Ireland, there's always what the Americans call the curveball. You'll notice tonight that this situation has been set up for a performance of two musicians. So what do? Suddenly it's no longer two musicians, it's three musicians. Blackie O'Connell's dad that is now going to play with Johnny Conlon and Michael Hynes that'll be coming on in a moment. And they're special people. Oliver O'Connell is going to probably sing some songs. He might even leap up and start dancing. I don't know. There's a lot of spontaneity involved in it. And just to remind you all as well that these people are musicians. The whole idea is to support live traditional music. There's a GoFund when you go and you're looking online and you're seeing and listening to the beautiful music. You have an opportunity to contribute some funds to the folks that are playing. You know, the young lad earlier on, for example, Liam Kelly, you know, he has to find the uilleann pipes cost fortunes of money. He has to come up with yet another €1,000 to get the drones for his pipes. And then, you know, so some of these guys are family people with families and so forth. So I appreciate that you're generous and that you will go to GoFund and you will throw a few dollars into the kitty. And it's all in a really good cause. Are we going to introduce the next bunch of lads? Are they around?
Yes, they're here. Come in, please.
Well, here we go. Don't be hiding yourselves. Oliver, don't be hiding yourself. Come on in, man. Come on in, and I'll be shot if I don't. Yeah, we're shot to. Yeah, we'll get a chair. We need a chair. We have a chair. Welcome, Michael. Michael, the man with the glasses that's sitting down next to me on my left. It's like the James brothers. He's one of the Hynes brothers. They're all musicians. The whole shooting match. There's Seamus Hynes, his brother, PJ Hynes, and Michael is sitting here. And then, of course, his neighbour up the road is Johnny Conlon. Johnny and I go back since forever. Oliver, I was just listening to the music tonight. The old feet were tapping the whole lot, and I said to myself, you could throw a blanket. You could throw a blanket over the topography and you'd catch us all. This is kind of like a postage stamp size space. The people that are entertaining you here tonight, they're all living within a couple of spitting distances of each other in any old direction. And that's one of the incredible things about dear old Ireland is all over the country there are thousands and thousands of musicians, talented people that are always on the go and willing to give it a go. And it is better it is getting. So I'll do the shut up, as the man says, and these guys are well able to introduce themselves. And seeing is believing. You're getting a severe dose of the original of the species of North Clare music. I should say before I exit stage left myself that traditional Irish music was very much not alone regionalised, styles of music, but down to virtually a couple of townlands together. And when people had access to recordings, and when people had access back in the day, in the prehistoric times of cassette players and all that kind of stuff, when people started learning tunes and listening to tunes, then there was a certain the music became somewhat homogenized. But it's a personal scene for myself with the lads, because it's absolutely, you don't get it any more local than this. You're in the middle of it, and I better shut up. I'll see you in a while, guys. Be good. Have a good one. Yes.
Johnny, do you want to tune up or do you be all right? I'd say we'll be enough, yeah. Hello, everybody. On my left side, Johnny Conlon, and on my right side, the great Michael Hynes, and I'm Oliver O'Connell. And as Peter just said, bred, born and starved up here in North Clare, and we'll give it our best shot. What we make, you know, it's a great honour to be sitting beside two real legends here from North Clare, and we're just going to relax and play a couple of tunes for you. So whatever you decide, and hope everybody all over the world that's included in tonight that have any Clare connections, even if you don't have Clare connections, happy St. Patrick's Day to you all, and we're ready to roll.
We'll start off with maybe three readings, Johnny: the Green Mountain, the Joke and Inster, and Boyne Hunt, if that's all right. Just figure out the way about it. Between Johnny and myself, we're 134 years old.
Oh my God.
And I'm 50, so you can figure out what's happening.
We told you the best stuff would be the last bit, is that right, Mike? You know?
That's it. Now, Johnny and myself in particular, we play a lot for what's called set dancing. Set dancing is it's a very skilled art, really. You know, you have a set, you have a Caledonian set, maybe a plain set, a Labashida set, Connemara set. They've all different choreography, and usually in a set there's about 6 different parts, like they call them figures. So you have reels, jigs, hornpipes, and that's what we probably enjoy most, because to a musician it gives a purpose to your music rather than playing to a passive audience, maybe. So we might play a couple of jigs.
We will. We will indeed.
Anything you like, Johnny, or we can go by the script here.
What have we there on the line?
Well, I got a few requests today from people to saddle the pony and haste to the wedding.
Want to be grand?
We'll find out very soon. And yourself, Johnny, and Oliver. Now, at enormous expense, I'd like to say, we managed to get Oliver O'Connell here this evening. At short notice, which was even more enormous expense, because
I just happened to be passing the door and they were coming in, and I just trained up with them, like, you know, they wouldn't let me pass. You know?
Now, Oliver's a well-known writer, poet. He's a well-known character, set dancer, musician, obviously, and he was also a well-known businessman here in town. He used to run the Bellevue Hotel years ago. A long time ago, and I can guarantee you, Johnny Conlon and myself were not drinking water in those days.
We were there very late in the morning, or early in the morning.
He put up his hand. Oliver, would you like to give us one of your?
I will, of course, yeah, I do that.
Brilliant, Oliver, thank you.
Before I do this, actually, I want to, I'm going to do a little piece now for you folks, and I want to dedicate it to a very, very special man who lives over in London. His name is PJ Hynes, and I know he's looking in tonight. Are you well, lads? Bye-bye. God bless.
All the best.
But PJ is Michael's brother, and in the 1970s here, 1980s, I suppose, like, you know, those two guys were the backbone of the trad music scene here in North Clare, both in Dolan and Lisdoonvarna, whatever. People came from all over the world to see them. So PJ, if you're looking in tonight, I know you are, have a very, very happy St. Patrick's Day. And this is especially for you. Now, I was born and reared in this part of County Clare. I'm from Lisdoonvarna originally. I live down in the heart of the Burren now. But when I was a little boy, I was a young lad.
Long time ago.
Long time ago, Michael, you're doing right actually, you know. But one of the things I can remember clearly was working with my dad. Because at that time in Ireland, the 1970s in particular, manual work was part of our everyday life from morning until evening. Like, there was no machinery, whatever. So you were either in the garden sowing potatoes, or you were making hay, or you were in the bog cutting turf. And this St. Patrick's Day, around this time of the year always, you'd have the bank turf ready for cutting it, for getting it ready, the turf ready for the summertime or for the winter time. But my dad was Peter O'Connell, and the people who had the bog very close to us were the Conlons. Now, Johnny was always late arriving, and he was always early leaving. That was the one thing I remember about him in those times, you know. But this is a piece I wrote to remember my dad. See that I'm in my hometown tonight, and this is a piece I wrote for my dad. It's maybe a long piece. So any time during it, if you want to come in with a story, you can, like, you know.
We will if we don't like it.
Okay, you will if you don't like it. I remember nighttime cattle drives from Dolan to Ennistimon Fair, dogs barking and cattle bellowing in the midnight air, and the moon and stars together shone an eerie glow on this magic North Clare landscape sometime long ago. I remember horse-drawn convoys on the road with creels of turf piled high, and the pea-capped neighbours' gentle salute as they wearily pass you by. The smell of new-mown meadow, and the stars up in the sky, and in the distance we listen to the corn crakenties cry. I remember the mehel in the meadow. It's an awesome sight to see. 10, maybe 20 men to do the work for me. At tea break telling stories without a worry or a care. This was country living at its best in my home place in Clare. Barefoot through green meadows we walked to national school, and at 6 o'clock we milked the cows on homemade three-legged stools. The calves were fed with calf nuts that we carried from the shed, and we ate like pudding and pork steaks when the fatted pig was dead. I remember the birds would raise your spirits when you heard the chorus at the dawn, as together with my dad we dug the drills of bawn, and we sowed the cabbage plants as spuds, and we laid them in a row. And I looked at my dad as he taught me how to sow, and how to tend to ewes at night when the lambs arrived in spring. God, those were very special times, and I remember everything. Timmy Shannon, with his horse and cart, he'd stop outside our door with fresh mackerel and pollock, fished at Dolan shore. I remember thatching reeks of turf and hay to protect from winter's rain. Neighbours playing nightly cards beside the fireside flame, listening to the anvil noise and the burning horse hoof smell, the laughter of the children bringing water from the well. I close my eyes in silent pause, and I roll back the years, and I see it all from spring to fall as I wipe away my tears. I see daisies in the springtime and snowflakes in December, and my mum and dad beside the fire, So I see it all, and I remember. I remember Christmas time in Ireland, the candles burning bright, and the wren boys dancing in our home on that called on Stephen's night. And on St. Patrick's Day, the church bells rang and called us all to pray. We hung the bush outside our door on the night before May Day. We got ready for the bog in March with the hay knife and the spade and the slan. We tackled the horse and we left the house before the crack of dawn. My father measured the bank of turf, and it looked about 8 miles long. We started work with slan and fork, and we sang a happy song. He lined it up with a big red rope, and he edged it with the spade, and I carefully placed the upturned scraw where the new sods would be laid. I stood on the bank and I watched his hands as he cut each sod with skill, and I placed them on the bank in every space I would fill. We took a break at 10 o'clock and we drank cold tea from a jar as we listened to the singing birds and the cuckoo from afar. The croaking frog and the corncrake was music for the soul as the mare grazed beside us and licked her newborn foal. As day wore on and our limbs grew tired, my dad would breathe a sigh. The sweat would roll down his face from the burning sun in the sky. We would stop and we'd stare at our morning's work with satisfaction and with pride. And I boiled the tea in a makeshift fire with my father by my side. Our day would end when the Angelus rang and we hid the tools in the heather. We tackled the mare and we headed for home on the horse and cart together. Another day over and we were tired and burned from the sun. But a special time and a special bond between a father and a son. Cutting turf, well, that was a tough old job, but sure, we tackled it together. And we worked so hard from dawn till dusk in this North Clare summer weather. The blisters in our hands, they told the story, but sure, we didn't have a care. This hard work took us from boys to men in my home place in Clare. Dad is no longer with us now, and the neighbours have also passed. The bog is closed and the slan is gone, and the years have moved on fast. But the memories of my youth with him will stay with me forever. Until the day we meet again, we will be together. He taught me everything I know. From the day that I could walk, he said, be kind and be honest and be careful of loose talk. Don't hurt your neighbour or your friend, and to yourself be true. And always remember, do your best in everything you do. That generation were so special, we won't see their likes again. They worked so hard, and they reared us well, and they made us better men. And I miss him now, and I miss those times when life was a tough old slog. But there is no price that you could pay for one day with him in the bog. I remember the day he passed away, 1988. And I said goodbye to the man I loved, my hero and my best mate. There was no one like my father when I was just a boy. Thought he'd live forever. I thought he'd never say goodbye. No more we'll work together, or walk through fields in Clare, or dig the spuds, or milk the cows, or take cattle to a fair. No more I'll hear his mellow voice, or listen to what he knew when we worked together man to man, and he showed me what to do. There is something special in a dad when he takes you by the hand and he shows you things of nature that you can't understand. Why birds will nest in springtime and the salmon will swim for home. And the cuckoo calls in April. The swallows cross the foam. The memories of my youth with him will stay with me forever. And I know the time will come again and we will be together. There was no one like this man of Clare when I was just a lad. And when times are hard, when life gets tough, that's when I miss my dad.
Thank you, Oliver. Great stuff.
Thank you, Michael.
And by a strange coincidence, Oliver, you dedicated that to my brother PJ.
I did, yeah.
But this is an old St. Patrick's Day I got from PJ about 10 years ago. I wrote a few tunes down.
I hope he's watching us in London.
Well, he might be, yeah.
Band, you know?
Well, he has a good phone. I'm the only one with an old Nokia. I can't watch any of this stuff now. But anyhow, thanks very much, Oliver.
You're very welcome.
That was a lovely interlude there.
I'll let you play together the two.
We're thinking of maybe the Donegal reel and West Along the Road in Lady Anne Montgomery. Would that suit you?
That'd be grand.
Yeah. Well, that's, we can go off script any time, Johnny.
We often do.
Not so much lately, thanks. Thanks. Thank you very much. Those were 3 reels, the Donegal reel west along the road, and Lady Anne Montgomery. Well, Lady Anne Montgomery, particularly around here, is associated with a great Donegal fiddle player, a man from St. Johnston, but he married into a musical family in Kilfenora. So he used to play here for many years at the Roadside Tavern, all over the world. He played with the Bothy Band, and a fantastic man. And the first reel we played was the Donegal reel. But Donegal is a beautiful county in the north-west coast, and it is a very unique musical tradition, both economically and musically, culturally. It would have great ties with Scotland, you see, because Scotland is quite near Donegal. We just crossed the sea, and a lot of Donegal men in particular during the season, they just go to Scotland, you know, they'd work picking up maybe setting spuds and the beet harvest and all that kind of stuff, and a lot of the ladies were left on their own to kind of manage the farms and the families and that. But there was one kind of the poor Mrs. Gallagher. She was up in a place called Glenculmkill, and she had a son. He was a kind of a ne'er-do-well, really, you know. She often encouraged him to maybe go along with the other fellas to Scotland or whatever and do a bit of work. But he didn't want to go anyway. But after years and years, when he was about 50 years of age, he decided he'd like to go to London for a while. So the mother was so delighted that she had a big party in his honour at the house, you see, and she invited all the neighbours, you know, mainly ladies again, Mrs. O'Donnell and Mrs. McGroarty and Mrs. McConnell and Mrs. O'Rourke, and her old friend Mrs. Dunn. And they had a great evening anyway, of music and drink and so on and so forth. And at some stage of the night, Mrs. Dunn got chatting to your man that was going to immigrate, you see. So she said to him, "Where are you going?" And when he says, "I'm going to London." "Oh," she said, "that's great." She says, "I have a son over in London, Neely, but he hasn't written for years and years. I'd love to hear from him again." Well, your man says, "Sure, I'm going to London. What part is he in?" Well, she says, "I'm not too sure. No, but the last time I heard from him, he was living in West Central 1, WC1, a beautiful part of London down the West End where you have all the theatres. But it's a huge city, obviously. So, well, he says, if I had a chance to meet him, I'll be sure to tell him to drop you a line." So on the Monday morning, anyway, following the party, poor man arrived at Heathrow Airport, and he was waiting for his old bag to come up the carousel, you see, and he spotted this neon light, WC's. So he thought of Mrs. Dunn and Neely, you know, straight away. He says, "Neely might be living down here somewhere." So he made his way up to the WC's anyway. He started at, first door was number 20, and he made his way down to WC1. And he knocked on the door anyway, and he says, "Are you nearly done?" Your man says, "I am, but I have no paper." Well, he says, "That's no excuse for not writing to your mother."
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. Nearly done.
Nearly done, yeah.
We do a few jigs, we
You can do it, Albert, yeah.
Okay.
might do the one thing minster, will we?
Done. Sorry, Oliver.
Great stuff.
That's great to be around. It's a quiet night out. There's nobody on the streets, and it's a peculiar year, it's a peculiar time, it's a peculiar St. Patrick's Day. I hope to God Almighty we'll have a better one next year. What do you think?
We will, yeah.
I think we're having a great time right now.
Oh, we are. We're doing it. You know, and we need a couple of people as well.
Keep the price side out, man.
That's
Keep the price side out.
Yeah. Next year we'll be better. We'll be better shape.
we will.
Thanks to Peter and Brigitte for giving us the chance to have a bit of a party between us, I feel.
It was lovely.
And I hope everyone is enjoying it all over the world, and
That's
happy
right,
St.
yeah.
Patrick's Day to everyone.
And yourself, Johnny. By the way, Johnny Conlon comes from a great line of traditional musician. Johnny, your grandfather was
My grandfather was the bass of Conlon, and he used to play the fiddle, and there was very few musicians at that time. This is about 100 years ago. And he was playing here in the hotels in Lisdoonvarna for visitors that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then my cousin, Mickleen Conlon, great friend of Peter's and great friend, God rest him, of the Roadside Tavern. He played there for over 50 years.
Indeed, yeah.
And I know myself, I'm playing over 50 years myself. So,
Are you playing a lot longer than that now?
well, I mean,
A lot longer than that.
Are you 85 now, Johnny?
not that yet, no. Soon.
Well, what Johnny didn't mention there, his grandfather, John Basil Conlon, was he was an Irish speaker. His first language was Irish, and there's a beautiful recording from, I think it was 1949, up at the Glenview Hotel
That's right,
here,
right.
by a very famous man called Seamus Ennis.
Seamus Ennis, yeah, he
Seamus
was
Ennis was a great collector of folklore and a great Highland piper, and he was a brilliant Irish speaker. He could speak all the Gaelic from all the Scottish islands. And
mostly the Munster Irish
Yeah,
he was doing
yeah.
that time. He was a great Munster Irish speaker.
anyway, Oliver, do you want to do another?
Well, I'll do something for you.
Oh yeah.
You know, about 1968, when I was a very, very small child, one of the, I remember the Pickerdun arrived in Lisdoonvarna to peer out into Kincora, and he was with a guy called, I never forgot the guy's name, Kevin Bikerdyke, and it was the first time I'd ever seen the Pickerdun. Now, he was a well-known character, and Michael would have seen him, and Johnny would have seen him around the place, like, you know, but he had a huge impact. He was a wild-looking man, but my God Almighty, when he'd open his mouth to sing, it was just pure velvet that came out of his mouth, because he was the most gorgeous singer you ever kind of could imagine, you know, and it didn't fit in with his persona. But I remember in about 7 or 8 years ago, I was given a picture, a real-life picture, but I have it down in the house, my home in the Burren, about 8 feet high, and it's a magnificent picture, and I brought it into Gort. It was around Christmas time. I brought it into Gort to get it framed, and because it was such a big picture, with the guy who had it framed, he hung it on the window, and there was a lady from Eastern Europe passing the door, and she saw the picture, and when she saw the picture of the Pickerdun, she went into a kind of a frenzy and got very upset and was crying, and like she really was like in a really bad way. So the guy at the shop brought her in and sat her down, and he got chatting to her, and it turned out that maybe 6 or 9 months previously, her little boy was in hospital in Limerick, and he was in a coma, and he had been in the coma like for 3 or 4 or 5 days, and the Pickerdun was in the bed next to him, and the woman had stayed with her son for 2 or 3 days without going down for food or anything, and the Pickerdun said to her, he said, go down, he said, and have some food, he said, and I'll mind the child. And she said in broken English, she said, I have no money. And the Picker said, I have money. So he gave her everything he had, and that's something that's in the Travellers, you know, they give you everything, they just don't give you a piece of it, you get everything from them. So she went downstairs and she had some food, and when she came back, after 25 or 30 minutes, the Picker was sitting beside the bed of the child, playing the banjo, and the child was wide awake, and he had come out of the coma. And it was about 2:45 on Thursday evening, the 19th of December, that happened. And at that point, at that moment, the Pickerdun died in the hospital in Ennis from throat cancer. And I was friendly with him, I knew him, I used to go down to see him, I was at Mickey Dunn, I used to go and see him and play tunes and what have you. He was an amazing man, but the morning of his funeral in Kilrush, you know, I've never seen a funeral like it in my life. They came from all over the country and all over the world, I suppose, really, to say goodbye to the Pickerdun. And he was buried in Burren Cemetery, not far from where the Colleen Bawn, who was murdered in the Shannon history, was buried. And we played tunes that day for him. The rare and knows in Cahee as we laid him into the ground. But I wrote this song for him, and I'll do it for you, all right?
Lovely,
Lovely album, right.
There's an unforgiving storm in Ballydesmond as we search for a place to camp tonight. It's tough for travelling men without a home to call their own. By the campfire when the stars are shining bright, we are men and women of the road in Ireland. We are singers and make music night and day. We roam from town to town, and the roadside is our home. And we love our freedom and our travelling way. I am Paddy Pickerdun, I'm an Irish minstrel. I was born in Castlebar in Mayo. I've travelled far and wide across the great divide on the windswept roads of Ireland long ago. I sang Sullivan's John in pubs in Lisdoonvarna, and the Tinker's Lullaby in Wexford town. Ballybudden by the sea, that's where I long to be, by the campfire when the sun is going down. As I gaze across the estuary to Kerry, and I think of Ballybudden in the spring, when the beer was flowing high and the crack was 99, and the Pickerdun in Kerry was the king. At the Munster hurling final down in Thurles, should the crowds they gathered round to hear me sing, with my daughters and my sons, where the buskin traveller duns, and in Thurles the Pickerdun was king. So forget about the pub fair in Killarglen, and don't talk about Kerry's famous ring. In 1963 it was there for all to see. In the kingdom Kerry the Pickerdun was king. The 19th of December 2012, the Pickerdun died in Ennis County Hospital, and we laid him to rest in Burren Cemetery in Killimer. And as we interred him into the ground, one of Ireland's last balladeers and songwriters, we played tunes for the repose of his soul. This is what we believed he said to our Lord when he arrived at the gates of heaven. I'm here at last, Lord. I'm here to rest my head, to sing for you, and to play a tune and to lie in heaven's bed. Cold windswept roads of Ireland, I remember them so well, and I knew it was my time to go when you, Lord, rang the bell. I see my traveller kith and kin, and I count them one by one. Just in case you don't know me, Lord, I am the Pickerdun. No more pain or suffering to endure, I'm no longer old and feeble. The road has been hard, but today I am free. I'm the last of the travelling people. I am Paddy Pickerdun, I'm an Irish minstrel. I was born in Castlebar in Mayo. I've travelled far and wide across the great divide, on the windswept roads of Ireland long and
Thanks indeed, Oliver. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Les.
Pecker was a truly great troubadour. He was, yeah.
Part of old Ireland, Michael.
Oh, indeed, yeah.
It was indeed.
I remember he used to stay out at the Moharin years ago. He was a great entertainer.
Did he ever come into Doonham when you were there?
He did. He used, yeah. He was.
He'd cause a bit of a stir, wouldn't he?
Oh, yeah, and he had, you know, he'd have the old fiddle, you see, but he'd always borrow 50 pence to put under the bridge of the fiddle to make it sound like the pipes. But
Great character, you know.
he was great, kind of an entertainer, and he could play the banjo and sing, and
Well, he could do anything.
Yeah.
You know, he was really good, like, you know. Just want to get a drink.
I'd say, Oliver, we'll finish up shortly, I think, will we?
Okay, all right. So
Yeah.
Yes.
There was a couple of reels, maybe.
do you want a few reels?
The Lord and the Lady, but
Lovely.
before we do so, somebody today earlier on, they asked me would I tell Oliver, you often heard this is a true story now. It goes back to the 1940s and the Second World War, obviously, and in those days here in the west of Ireland, very few people had radios. There was virtually no televisions, and you know, but whoever had a radio would be the chief source of news as to what was happening throughout the world, and you know, Europe and what have you. But there was a guy down in Steinman, he had an old radio. Reception wasn't great in it, but between the crackling you could hear what was going on. And he was out in the scullery one day, and he was washing his old tin mug and plate and stuff, and he had the BBC World Service on the radio, you see. And but he overheard anyway what he thought was this BBC newsreader, and his plummy accent. He said, the Japanese have bombed Pearl Harbor. And of course, poor man took it up straight away that the Japanese had bombed Bell Harbor. Bell Harbor is a little village up here in further up North Clare, and of course, he ran out into the street. You often heard that, Johnny, shouting, you know, they've bombed Bell Harbor, and a crowd of lads got together on bicycles and shovels and forks, and they made their way up to fight for the honour of Bell Harbor anyway, but it was actually Pearl Harbor. But anyway, we'll finish up with a couple of reels maybe.
Lucy Campbell's in the books or something like that. Will they just to finish, or have you others that was there? I don't mind.
Well, these are kind of the same.
Yeah. We do whatever you
Lord MacDonald, but before we finish, Lord MacDonald was recorded in America, in New York, about 100 years ago. A brilliant Sligo fiddle player called Michael Coleman. He left his native place in 1914, emigrated to America in the White Star Line, on the big ships, and he brilliant fiddle player, but he had an enormous influence in our music, and still has. Actually, recently there was a program in RTE there. Did you hear it, Johnny? You know, about some new old recordings that were found of Michael Coleman. So we'd like again to thank Peter and Birgitta and the lads here, Oliver O'Connell, Johnny Conlon. My own name is Michael Hynes, and pardon?
And filming there.
Otherwise, filming, yes.
The guys, yeah.
And a very, very special thanks as well to Sarah, the little girl playing the concertina. There's a beautiful player, and several don't know. My son Michael was here, and Charles and Adrian, isn't it? And
Yes, we had him.
And Christy Barry was here earlier, and James David. We missed him, like, you know, but.
And
Thank-
Kelly and Oisin Marsh.
Oh, I
Yes.
forgot about Liam. I forgot about Liam and Ocean, like, yeah. But it's thank you very much, because like musicians, you know, like those people, you know, they miss out a lot in the last year and what have you, and even to get the opportunity to come just to join for half an hour or an hour, whatever it is, like, yeah, it means a lot. It gets us out of the house anyway in St. Patrick's Night. I wish you the best of luck, Peter and Brigitte. I wish you the best, and we'll finish up some, Mike, all right?
Yeah.
I just want to dedicate this that selection to my sister. She might be watching or listening over in Boston. Anne Conlon or Anne McLaughlin, as she is now over there.
No,
And if she's watching, happy St. Patrick's Day, and to everyone that's watching.
Up to go there.
Cheers.
Johnny.
Thank you kindly. Well done. Well done, huh? It is nostalgia at this stage. We've been, huh?
It is indeed.
Honest to God, yeah. And of course, to wrap it all up, we have to ask the audience all the way from Chile to Australia, Belgium, Holland, Scandinavia, Ireland, all over the show, to take a bow and to thank everybody for looking in, listening in, and if you get an opportunity to come to Ireland, you're always welcome. And for those of you who put some funds together for the lads that play the music, the people who play the music, the traditional musicians that need to be supported, supporting live music on the Go Fund, thank you more sincerely. And of course the guys behind the cameras, they've been 6 hours now, and yesterday and the day before and whatever, setting it up. Lou said, he said, I'm in here so often now, he says, I think I'll call it home. So with that, I'd like to thank you all, and then of course my lady wife that put all this thing together. Without her, we're all bunched. And I hope you have a great St. Patrick's Day, and I hope the rest of the world, and enjoy yourselves and have some fun. And with that, I'll say good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go. That's the job.